certainly clear. Hockey needs to get better. When Akim Aliou first told his story in 2020, my reaction was that he was soft and needed to toughen up. In my mind, he was a terrible team player, and he sounded like an egotistical, cancerous presence. We all participated in the same initiations. We were all treated terribly by veteran players, and racism was just something that we normalized. I thought he was the issue. It was our job to conform to the norms of the hockey world. Varying from those norms, especially as a player of color, was highly frowned upon. What's said in the room stays in the room, and it appeared to me that Akim was breaking the hockey code wherever he went. Then, this memoir happened. I started to see myself through my son's eyes as a 16-year-old rookie all over again. Would I want him to have the same experiences in hockey? Akim had Tiger Balm put in his jock, his equipment thrown on the roof. He was bullied and tormented in front of his coach, asked to strip naked in a bus bathroom with the heat cranked up, cross-checked in the mouth at practice, losing 7 teeth before being challenged to fight, called the N-word by a coach, and treated differently at every level because of the color of his skin. In his letter, he remembered being told that he didn't get the culture of hockey. I now realize that we never understood the word culture. We used the word as an excuse or an alibi to carry out these hideous acts on minors that had been a tradition for decades. The difference for me was that I looked the same as everyone else. I soon realized that I was the issue, not Akim. Throughout my career, I was complicit in this behavior, and I never stood up to stop it. I was ignorant. One of my coaches used to ask an indigenous teammate if it would be easier to send him a smoke signal than explain the drill, and anyone with an indigenous background would be called chief or some other discriminatory slur. I heard the N-word numerous times in the dressing room, in the stands, and on the ice. And although I knew it was wrong and wouldn't say it myself, in my mind, it wasn't my problem. One of my childhood friends, while playing pro hockey in Germany, had bananas thrown at him during a game. But I never asked what I could do to help. Afraid of risking my own career by taking a stand, I never once spoke up to say this was wrong. It has taken me a long time to get to this place. When you are immersed in a world that tells you how to think, act, and behave from the time you are 5 years old, it's tough to see things differently. At some point, you need to step away from the game and see things from a distance. My friend Darren was recently explaining to one of our former teammates, Chris George, that he was treated differently in the OHL, in that he wasn't given the same opportunities that we were because he was black. Chris should have been the coach's favorite player. He played physical, was highly skilled, and loved to fight. He was surprised at how we saw things. When a black hockey player doesn't realize that he's being treated differently, and his path to the NHL looks much different from our journey, it's no surprise that it took me this long to see things through a different lens. Chris, a teammate at Western, tells a story about walking down the street in London, Ontario, and being attacked by a biker. It started with racial slurs, and he was knocked unconscious. The biker had brass knuckles on, and he left Chris unconscious, lying limp on the sidewalk. He had to miss hockey because of a concussion and because he couldn't put his helmet on. He had that many stitches in his head. So what was his thought process after this incident? I just remember thinking that I didn't want to get in trouble and get kicked off the team for being that black guy who was causing trouble. It was a scenario that I look back at and think, how could I feel that guilt or concern? It should have been different. If that was me being jumped on the street, we would have done everything to find the perpetrator and report the crime. For Chris, staying silent was what he felt he had to do to keep playing hockey. Nobody was charged. Nothing was reported. The game of hockey continued, and Chris stayed silent. Why did it take 20 years to realize that this was not right? With the recent events surrounding Jordan Subban, Boko Imama, and Jalen Smerik, ignorance has once again reared its ugly head. All 3 players have endured racial taunting through various gestures or through the use of slurs.